Hey guys, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. Welcome to the Great Sea, home of a really amazing bit of music, and also water as far as the eye can see. It's blue, it's wet, it's everywhere. Get used to it.
I love sailing. I know that's the big complaint a lot of people had with Wind Waker, was that I spent so much time sailing, but I love it. I thought it was relaxing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just the scope of the ocean. I mean, on the GameCube technology, the fact that they had to play a little trickery, but the fact that they got such a huge, expansive ocean to work is impressive, and I love it. Like, I've never been upset with sailing. Yeah, maybe later on in the game I'll just teleport wherever the fuck I need to go, but it's never been to the point where, I gotta sail to this point. No, I love it too much. It's just too chill and calming and relaxing and awesome.
You hit the nail right on the head for me. I would definitely call it relaxing. The train stuff in Spirit Tracks, I feel, is a little bit of a spiritual successor, because when Phantom Hourglass rolled around, you basically controlled where the boat wanted to go with the stars. It was more of a motorboat than like a traditional sailboat, so you weren't really at the mercy of the wind. But here, until you get, like, you know, the titular Wind Waker, you can't really control the direction you're going in, so we're railroaded for the time being. But as you can see here, there's towers to infiltrate, enemies to destroy. We can't really pick up stuff from the ocean depths just yet. We need the grappling hook from the first dungeon for that, but it's pretty. It's definitely pretty.
Oh yeah, and like you said with Spirit Tracks, it is its closest successor, but the thing that they did in Spirit Track that I can definitely tell was due to complaints about the Great Sea being quote-unquote boring were those demon trains, which to me just kind of got rid of the fun of riding the train, because I was constantly worrying about my route and whether I was going to run into demon trains. But when I'm sailing, I'm just sailing. I can relax. And I know it sounds really bad when playing a video game, but you know, I can put the controller down and it's not a problem at all.
I should be careful of becoming too relaxed during these commentaries, because I think we were a little bit rusty in parts 1 and 2, but we've hit our stride from 3 onwards, so gotta be careful not to become too lax.
I also do really think that a complaint with people with the ocean is that, I mean, there's not a lot that's required on the sea. But as you can see right here, just between your first point A, point B, and your first sailing section, you have that tower, you have this raft. You're getting a really good taste of what's on the ocean. You even have that barrel game, where if you went between those two barrels that are next to each other, more barrels with rupees pop up. So you can get about 70, maybe 80 rupees before we hit our destination. And it just shows how many little things scatter the ocean to give it life. I mean, yeah, if you want to compare it to like Termina Field, where there's a town like just walking distance every time, then I can see it, but they were definitely trying to see what kind of scope they could go with Wind Waker. I mean, going up to the GameCube, going up with harder, with bigger hardware, it did require some tricks. Especially like with the islands, you notice that when an island is off in the distance, it's black.
Yeah.
But as we approach it, it gets detailed. Those are actually two separate models. And what happens is that you hit a loading line where the game switches those two models. But it's so seamless that I love that you can see an island off in the distance and then sail up right to it and then walk on it. When I first did it blew my mind.
Yeah, and I believe it's done a lot better in this game compared to the original, because I have vivid memories of Dragon Roost's, you know, fully illuminated form just popping in the GameCube version. It wasn't enough to take me out of the experience, but it was definitely noticeable.
Yeah, like I said, they had to do little tricks like that, like switching models. Parts of the ocean aren't loaded, so I mean, that makes sense. The only thing you really need loaded in the ocean is really just its surface.
Yeah.
But then you also find out that there's an ocean bottom in some parts, which it's weird. It's like, for how many limitations they had, the fact that they programmed some unnecessary things is just silly. It's like, you were stuck as it was. Why did you go to the effort of putting this in?
Now, we had an ocarina in, well, Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Here we get basically a conductor's baton, and this ties into the theme of the main element of the game being wind. We can use this to literally control the direction of the wind, and a few other bits involving the air, but we'll get to those later in the game.
It is pretty much the most broken item in the game, at least in the original sense. That bad boy, you could fall off a slope, pull your Wind Waker out, put it away, congratulations, you've activated storage.
Oh yeah.
Which pretty much lets you store the next event, like opening a chest, talking to someone. You can store text for later. It sounds super weird and really unuseful until you realize the applications it has, such as locking your camera, which lets you swim away.
The music of Dragon Roost Island. Mexi, how do we feel about this little ditty?
This is up there with Gerudo Desert, which should tell you something.
Oh yeah.
It was my favorite track in Smash Bros. Brawl. I love it to death. I love anything that has a sort of
flamenco vibe to it.
Yeah, I didn't want to outright say Spanish because that's a little too generic and unspecific.
You get hype for stuff that takes you back to your roots. I get hype for Celtic music. It's just how it goes.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. It's like I didn't want to sound too much like a stereotype, but when you put it that way, that, it's the roots. And yeah, I'll go with that.
You can wait to get this until you're done with the first dungeon, but hey, the game's giving us the option to pick it up now, so why not?
Why not? This is actually one of the first events you can store.
You sound like fucking Villager from Smash 4. I'll put this away for later and counter you with it, just at the final stock.
No, he fucking is. Toon Link in Wind Waker with all the Wind Waker storage is pretty much Villager. You can just put events in your pocket, and I can fuck with your camera, I can fuck with your actual hitbox. You can skip this event because you store it away.
I never noticed the little detail of I know it's just a pattern of his skin, but it looks like a mustache. I couldn't really make that out as well in the original game.
I didn't notice the mustache, but yeah, this is Zephos. His name should give it away. Zephos. He's the god of the wind. And he is a kami. You can definitely tell that the genies in Pokemon are also drawn from the same legend. They're all inspired by the same dealio. Although I much prefer the frog element as opposed to, I don't know what the Jin animal is supposed to be. Because I do like how in Japanese mythology that frogs are closely tied to the rain or with weather in general.
Yeah, like Frog's element in Chrono Trigger is water, isn't it?
Yes.
I like Quill. This is Quill, right?
Yes, Quill.
Thank God, I thought I was confusing him with another bird. I was like, oh God, I'm a bird racist.
I was gonna say, do you think all birdmen look exactly the same?
Oh man, no. I went from a really nuanced thing of, you should respect your roots to all bird people look alike.
You make mistakes. You're only human, not a birdman.
For the longest time, I thought his nose, the red part, was his mouth.
Really?
Yeah, you can just barely see his mouth underneath his beak.
I never really got that. I was able to see his mouth, from early on. But Quill is the main postman in the story. I think he's one of the few that's actually named. And he was the one that was at the town. So I do like that about him is that he helped you, remember back in Outset, he helped convince the pirates to take you along.
Yeah, by guilt-tripping them.
Oh, straight up. I mean, he's a badass. He is an expert negotiator. And so it is kind of cool that now we're going to see his whole town. Because Errol in the beginning is he looks so weird. It's chill out there, Errol. And now we see that there's a whole island of them. And we get a chieftain with a pretty sick little chin beard.
Nice little crown, or a circlet atop his, beard. What's the word? Feathery, there we go. I don't know why I was going for bearded there.
I don't know, because I'm confused too. It's do you think that beard, they're really short feathers, or do they grow hair and feathers?
What's even more confusing is that these guys, their ancestors were the Zora.
Okay, I'm going to clear something up here. When people get really pissy that fish evolved into birds, I just want to remind you that that is literally what happened. fish eventually became birds. Now I do understand. The complaint being, why would fish people evolve into birds in a world that is mostly under the sea? Well, lack of competition. If the ocean is so big and there's a lot of animals in the ocean, guess what? They're all competing for food in space. If there's less above the ocean, then you can adapt for that situation and live a relatively competitive free life. It's all about finding your ecological niche. There you go.
Doesn't evolution take millions of years, though? Just to throw this monkey wrench into the works, so to speak.
Doesn't this take place in the Zelda universe where fairies can heal you from the dead?
Point taken, showing up.
Plus they decided to become postmen.
This is a really nerdy kind of thing, but I loved spending time here and delivering letters and doing the sorting minigame. I liked Postman Pat, okay?
That's not a problem. I mean, I can't think of one right off the bat, but there's definitely been those mini games where it's stupid, and most people, like, they do it the one required time or whatever and leave, but I just stay there and do it over and over and over.
Yeah.
I think one is probably, you mentioned Chrono Trigger. There's like a Simon Says minigame in Chrono Trigger. Like, yes. I'm pretty sure I did that for like 5 hours just cuz.
Well, you must have beasted the one mandatory installment of that then.
Exactly. Green clothes. Also no mention of the fairy, which they were probably do that reference. They always do that. It's like, oh, green clothes and fairy, and now it's green clothes and, oh, not a fairy.
Green clothes and sword and shield, I guess.
Yeah. Well, green clothes and big ass eyes.
This is Medley. She's basically an attendant to the prince, and kind of a familiar symbol on her, I guess you could call it robes there.
It's sort of like those over-collar dealios. But yeah, it's the Zora Sapphire. We've already said they're descended from the Zoras. All the races get some sort of descendant, parallel, current inhabitants. So, well, bar one. You don't really see an explicit Gerudo descendant. But other than them, most, if not all the races of Hyrule stuck around.
Well, we're not, but we might as well, to get some free rupees.
You might as well, because MBM put it in the route.
Is it just me, or is the bottom center symbol Tingle?
I was just about to say that, and I was about to question it, until I realized he is the only person in the ocean that can decipher seat charts, so he probably gets a lot of request mail.
Yeah, good point.
Of people saying, hey, I found this really rare chart, can I schedule an appointment to swing by and get it deciphered?
And you'll see me fumble a couple of these. I swear I was using the analog stick correctly, it's just that it's a little bit stiffer than on the GameCube.
If the Nintendo World Championship taught us anything, it's that the gamepad is a terrible controller.
Oh, sweet Jesus. Why is there a button to, bring up the home menu? Surely having everything on the screen would suffice.
'Cause the 3DS has a home button?
Well, they weren't even hitting the home button, they were hitting, ZR or something.
Something like that. Like I said, don't play old games on the gamepad, it wasn't meant to do that.
Well, besides that and, the mini-Wii stuff, the World Championships were fucking great. Shame about what came after it, though!
Oh, you mean the actual E3?
I'm okay, it's fine. That's not, it's not Zelda relevant. Why is that guy holding a Dragon Ball?
Well, he's only holding one, so does it really matter? I mean, they've had Dragon Balls in stupider locations before.
I don't know if this has been confirmed at the time we're recording this, but there's a 9-star Dragon Ball?
What?
Yeah?
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. I haven't actually watched Dragon Ball Z. I just know about it, but...
so you're basically like me before I actually started watching / reading JoJo.
Yes. See, I have not read the manga. Kid, look. My sister got kidnapped. I got thrown out in the middle of the ocean by a giant bird. I have a talking ship that tells me to do things, and he sometimes talks in my head through a rock. I've had enough shit to deal with. give me the fucking Dragon Ball.
For a moment there, it almost seemed like he was possessed by the pearl, but no curveballs here, I'm afraid.
See, Zelda can go so many dark twists that would be awesome. Like, they did kind of do that in Twilight Princess, where you actually do collect artifacts of evil, darkness, whatever, and then you were given the hint that it could possess you. But it would have been nice if they went all out. Maybe it wouldn't have fit all that well with Wind Waker, but yes, you've hinted at it so many times that sometimes the item you collect might not be all that good and could possess you.
Sorry, I just love how into this you are.
Because it's a good idea that, honestly, you introduced to me, and I wholeheartedly agree with it.
In this particular, I guess we'll call it a set piece, you need to throw Medley, like, up towards Dragon Roost Cavern itself. And you can do this normally by waiting for the wind direction to change, or I believe you can just whip out the Wind Waker if you decide to sequence break and, change it that way.
This kind of calls back a little bit to the second half of Ocarina of Time, where you had people in the dungeons. You were outright told by Rauru that these people were in the dungeon because they were being called to it, and you encountered them maybe once or twice, and then some characters like Saria, you didn't actually see, you were just implicitly told. But I do like how with this, you are aiding a character in their entry to the dungeon, like you are physically helping them get in and then seeing them get in. So I appreciate Medley having the initiative to, take care of some shit, not just waiting on the legendary hero to get stuff done.
And if this puts you in mind of, what was her name, Ruto in Jabba Jabba's belly, keep that thought in mind. It will come into play during a particular temple later in the game.
I also really like how the wings just sprout out. I know that with some of the older male Ritos, they have really long sleeves that you can tell turn into the wings, but with Medley, it's kind of cool too how they just sprout out.
I didn't sign up for babysitting. I'll be needing payment now. Payment is due upon services rendered.
I'm not here to watch over your peeps. I'm here to just cause trouble. Honestly, take your valuables, sail away. You know what? Screw being here. Let's just be full-blown pirates.
Empty bottles are the most precious commodity in a Zelda game in terms of optional items, because they're so useful for carrying water. Fairies mostly, not gonna lie, but the option remains for a bit of enhanced gameplay.
Oh no, straight up. In speedruns at least, as soon as you get the Wind Waker, you use it to super swim, and your very first location in runs that don't use the tuner is a submarine to get a bottle. It is that important that you sequence break for a bottle. And then you move on to getting bombs and stuff. You can honestly tell the importance of items by how early, or how much you break the game just to get them.
When did we get our first bottle in Ocarina and Majora respectively, the earliest point?
Ocarina, Kakariko Village, after you hunt chickens.
Ah, yeah.
Majora's Mask, well, okay, the only one I can think of right now is, I know they changed it in 3D, but you can get one from the shooting the witch in the swamp minigame.
Oh yeah, it becomes a heart piece, doesn't it?
It was a heart piece, but it became a bottle. That way you could have it before Pirate Fortress.
Oh, right, yeah. We were watching that stream together, weren't we, when we discovered that for the first time?
Yep, we did. Also, the particle effect with the dust, it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
I like how the wind constantly shifts, but if you did get the Wind's Requiem, you can set it to a specific location, so doesn't matter. Also, you can skip the second bomb if you want to, use a bomb boost to blast yourself across the lava.
Oh, I'm not that skilled, mate, unfortunately. Okay, guys, we'll see you next time where we take on our first dungeon of the game. See you then.